Welcome to week 4. Traditionally here we talk about kind of how to integrate, as you're going into progressions, integrate kind of a run walk. At its highest level, every Olympic athlete does interval training, and it's very basic. If somebody's coming up from an injury, I see people all the time, we'll do an exercise for a little bit, then we'll take a break. Exercise for a little bit, and then we'll take a break. What we're trying to do is we're trying to match the tissues in our body, whatever injuries we might have or things that we're dealing with, they need a certain amount of circulation. And it could be that, let's say you had a foot injury on the bottom of your foot, the heel of your foot hurts, and you kind of go for a run, and God, after 20 minutes that's sore, the rest of you is fine. Well, that clearly was the maximal amount that your foot could do, but the rest of you was okay. If you listen to the rest of you, and you could just leave our foot behind, that would be well and good, but we can't do that. We have to bring our foot with us. So we need to be able to match what our body is telling us. So by doing a run walk, we can kind of take a moment, settle back a little bit, see how we're feeling, and kind of work ourselves forward with our dosage of running. If our body says, oh, we're good, we can start to patch those together and just turn that into a continuous run. But it's a great place to start if you're kind of starting from the ground up. So today we're going to do a little bit of some of our walking technique that is really secret running training, as well as a good way to get around, okay? So we're going to do that. That's what this stuff is about, is to help bring the awareness in. Overall, the theme running through here is that we want you to be your own running coach and your body and its wisdom to help guide that, okay? So that when you're out there and you're like, this doesn't feel quite right, you kind of know what knobs to tune to try to find something that feels a little bit better for you on that particular day. Every step you take in your entire life will be different. Walking, running, otherwise every run you go on is going to be a little bit different. And so if we have variability, flexibility in the system, we're going to be that much more effective than like, this is how much I'm doing and that's it. Or I'm going to run and not think about it. If we have control of that and we get awareness of, yeah, that step was different from the one before it. It was. Once we can kind of tune into that, we'll have better access for it. So if it's a little bit warm, but if you feel comfortable, shoes off on this one's going to be really helpful for feedback. If not, you're good in whatever you're in. But there's a special thing that will happen with barefooting today that will give you an extra piece of information about the forces you're using for your feet. So I encourage you, if you're feeling up for it, to give it a try. So walking, our same concepts that we use for our running we covered last week with our soft knees and our leafing our feet. It's a little bit different gait because we don't have flight time in walking. It's a weight transfer from one foot to the other. That's one of the differences. That's why we can land on our heel and it's okay, because we're transferring onto our heel rather than jumping onto our heel, right? So let's do a quick walking drills. Then we're going to put once you get some awareness, we're going to put them in context and see if your body has some adaptability. We'll utilize that, and then we'll start a little bit of some of our running around here. And we'll kind of work in stations. We'll kind of break this up a little bit. It'll be like a little circuit, sort of, today, okay? Once we get the very basics, then we'll kind of go through circuits, a couple minutes of each, to get some of these awareness drills, and you'll put it together over the course of this week as you're building up your barefoot blocks towards, taper to crest. Okay. In efficient running and efficient walking, we want to be more like freeway traffic than stop and go traffic. It's better for the better mileage, better for the brakes, better for the struts. So we don't want to stop and go on every step. Let's just walk across, and I want you to just get a sense of awareness of where your foot's contacting on the ground. It'll probably be on the heel, but where on the heel? And what does it feel like? Just walk normal as possible. Just walk across the other side. Not super slow, whatever your usual pace is, and just get a sense of what your normal is, what your baseline is. There's no right or wrong, it just is. Good, let's come back a little faster. Good. So Many of you have taken this before. You've done this sort of thing before. Every time I go out walking, I learn something new each time. So if this is your second or third time coming through this series, maybe it's your first time. The more you put into it with awareness, the more you get out of it. Anybody, where did you find foot contact with the ground? Heel, yeah. Where on your heel? Anybody? There's no right answer here.
Outside.
Outside of the heel.
Yeah.
Okay. Outside, kind of back corner of the heel.
Yeah.
So he had anybody else? Anything different?
I felt like mine was more on the center.
On the center of your heel. Okay.
Like, yeah, instead of the outside.
Okay. So kind of in the middle of the heel.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Anybody inside heel? Not really. Not sure. Okay. So we also have kind of the back to the center of the heel on the bottom. Put your foot out front, kind of legs straight, and I want you to kind of lean onto that back corner of the heel semi-gently. You can kind of feel as you take weight onto that back corner. Lean on it a little bit. And then I want you to bend your knee a little bit and land on the bottom center of your heel. There's a nice squishy fat pad there, no? Right? Form follows function. Our body is designed in a way that this is more the place where we should be landing. That's part of the reason why we have a fat pad there, not only for cushioning, but for sensory feedback. That's why we have one of the reasons why we have fat pads in our body. They're great for proprioception. So, how do we get there? We just bend the knee a little bit, soften the knee. Sounds familiar, right? So if we soften that knee, not only does that bring us more closer to the bottom center of our heel, followed quickly by the rest of our foot, but it also allows us to be more underneath our center of mass, so we're not braking as much. If we're falling, we take a big step forward and brake, so we don't need to stop, so it brings it a little bit more underneath us. Okay? So let's walk back one time. Try to, as kind of comfortable a pace as you can organize, not super, super slow. Walking pace, but slow enough that you can kind of organize that bottom center by just taking your full height and dropping 1/3 of an inch via your knees. Just 1/3. If somebody across the street can tell you're doing something weird, you're doing too much. Okay? So this should be you mostly, okay? So bottom center of your heel, let's walk back. Hey Christy, it's good to see you. Okay. So now, if we have decreased braking and we're going at a constant speed, Newton's first law of motion, object in motion stays in motion unless acted on by an outside force, okay? Physics, remember that from high school maybe. So if we brake less, we don't have to push off as much. And that's where I want your mind to go, is on the release of your foot from the ground, okay? That release is going to be critical for our running. If you're here just for running, I don't care about walking, I'm just here for running, then this is the drill for you. If you're like, I like to walk too, or I like to walk better, and I like to have a little mindful, peaceful moment during the day, this is the drill for you. Really, you can't get away from this one if you're going to be coming around here. So, super important. That's why it's week one. It's one of our most fundamental human activities, bipedal motion. It makes us human, really, or part of it. So, put one foot forward and one foot back, and we're just going to transfer weight. This transfer progression. Both feet are flat on the ground, about knees bent a little bit, about a step width apart, whatever a regular step width is for you. And we're just going to shift weight onto this front foot, and then come up onto the end of the big toe. And then let the ball of the foot come down, and then come on back. Let's do that a few times. So this is that leafing the foot, where we release that foot from the ground. Now there are a couple ways we can do this. Let's do that, let's push from the back foot, kind of throw ourselves onto the front foot, use the calf, kind of dig into the ground a little bit. You can grip with your toes or just push through the ball of the feet. You can kind of project yourself forward. This has a little upward component to it too, but even just think about projecting yourself forward. Now what I want you to do is, as gently as you can, shift forward and then peel the foot. Shift first and then peel. And before you set it back down, and then shift back. Shift forward and then peel, no weight on it. Set it back down, no weight on it, and then shift back. So this is how we can kind of progress forward without really pushing off or digging in through the ground. If you're doing barefooting, you are very likely to give yourself blisters if you are digging through the ground, okay? And I want you guys to be successful in doing what you're doing. So that shift and then peel, set it back down and shift back. And we're gonna do this on the balance board as well as on the slide board, this drill right here. So everybody grab a partner. They can be the same size, but they don't have to be. Put opposite arm on opposite shoulder. There you go, introduce yourself. So opposite arm on opposite shoulder. Everybody put right foot back, left foot forward. Get yourself close enough that you can kind of support each other a little bit. And then let's just do the same drill, shifting onto the foot. So shift onto your front foot, and your knees should kind of come opposite. Good. So same time, kind of shift forward. Good. And back. So the weight, your front should stay flat the whole time. Good. Keep that front foot flat, and just take weight onto that front foot. Good. Shifts back. Good. Now go back and forth so you guys are working together. So instead of going towards each other and away from each other, keep the same distance apart. Good. Good. And just try to shift your center, your hips, and release that back foot up to the end of the big toe and back down. All right, switch sides. So was that easier or harder for most of you to do that? Was that kind of...
It's hard to remember the shift weight before lifting the foot up.
Right, so we've changed the task a little bit from something, and now we have interpersonal space and this new person, and do they smell or not, and that whole stuff going on. We've changed the task, and then whether or not we shift before or after, we've taken some of our mind space away from that situation and put you in a kind of a different situation, which is where you're at most of the time. And then our mechanics change. We're essentially doing the same thing, but we got a little bit different forces, and we got this different person. So being able to tune back into 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Let's do our personal test here. Same thing. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Weights on the back foot. Shift it to the front, and then peel. Being able to tune in to take that movement between your walking here to the end of the street to kind of work on leafing that foot as you're walking. We'll take you out of that for a little bit and bring you into, that regular check-in of where you're at. You can't do it if you're not doing it somewhat mindfully. Occasionally, every step you don't have to think about in your whole life, but then you're going to be doing what you were doing here, which is kind of whatever you normally do when you're not thinking about it. So let's walk back, and this time just work on that leafing the back foot. This is me doing the same task, walking. I just have a little bit of soft knees and leafing the foot. So learning a new motor pattern can feel strange, but try to make it as relaxed and fluid. The ankles and knees and hips are relaxed, and you're just allowing that foot to release from the ground and that ankle to open up. Okay. So this is a practice like rule number 4, Minimalist Monday rule number 4. I enjoy the practice of running. It's like posture, it's never done, right? We don't ever get to say, I'm done with posture, I never have to think about it for the rest of my life. It's kind of like you're walking, flossing. You'll have to check in with it regularly. Same thing with your running. So the 2 drills we're going to do over here, and we'll break up into groups. The walking drill, this is a board. There may or may not be slivers on here, okay? But you know how to make yourself sliver-proof? Is by walking the right way. If you're skimming your feet on here, then I can't vouch for you, okay? So what we're gonna do is eyes forward, body relaxed. You're gonna find your weight on here. Find your weight on here. Your knees are soft. The pattern that we're gonna do first is front of the foot. This is the running pattern, forefoot to heel, and then transfer weight forward. Once we're on this foot here, just like we just did, we can leave that foot off the ground and set it back down. I'm setting it down, toe, heel, still no weight, transferring my center of mass forward, and then releasing it like that. So you're shifting weight and then peeling. Same thing here. This one is for doing backwards. So you're going to do the same thing. Since we're using our feet to feel, it's not actually any harder, really. You're going to set down, shift back, release the foot. Find the ground, point of contact, bend the knees. You have to get low enough to get your heel down, depending on how tight your calf is. Still no weight, and then shift. So you're kind of going a little cycle here. This one is going to be crazy, okay? This is kind of crazy, okay? So don't make me crazy by doing anything crazy, okay? These are little booties you're gonna put on your feet. There's 4 or 5 in here. They're different sizes. And if we're not pushing it off and we're not braking, then we're not gonna slip on this slide board. This is like a slide board thing that you can kind of slide to your skating, surfing back and forth on. If we push off here too much, ooh, it's a little bit warm though, so you probably won't spend too much time on there. When you're walking, we're putting our foot on the ground, and you're just going to walk across on a diagonal and keep that same pattern on here. If you're using a push-off pattern while you're walking on here, like you can do on here, and you get on here, what happens is you kind of feel that like you do when you're walking on ice. Or if you're kind of reaching out too much, whoa, don't do that one. You might slide forward. So you're just going to walk on a diagonal. You guys can do a little loop or go back and forth, whatever you guys organize as. Kind of just keep your same pattern. We want to keep it basically the same as we go on and off. Take at least 5-10 steps on either side. And you can see as the task changes, what does your body do? We do have a pattern in there for ice walking. We've all done that before. And we're making our other walking a little bit more like ice walking. And then the third group, we're gonna do a little bit of run walking, okay? Over here, and we'll talk about the progression of speeding up and slowing down, okay? I'm kind of at a walk. Now I'm gonna start my run, slow, build up. Like an airplane kind of taking off. Add a little bit on each step to bring yourself up to speed. You run halfway around, and then you slow down. On your jog, you slow down. Take a couple steps for walking, and then build it up again. People oftentimes, while they push off to accelerate, can exacerbate problems, pull a calf muscle, do silly things. So work on building, waxing and waning, sort of, okay? Look at the bottoms of your feet right now, and see where, you can see the kind of the white on the bottoms of your feet, and see where, as you're walking, where you maybe are prioritizing your push-off or not. You can kind of look and see, okay, where are those kind of white spots? Where am I focusing? Is it all on the outside of your foot? Is it all on the inside of your foot? Is it the same side to side? When we're barefooting, whether we can get some information from that. There's little white spots. Just take a note to see, maybe it's on this side, or you're on the outside or the inside of your foot, and pay attention to that when you're doing your walking this week. In place, we'll kind of run in place. And we'll just start going forward, peeling that foot off the ground, letting that heel sit down softly. Good. Keep building, good.
Kind of that lean helps.
Yeah, exactly. So stay forward. But now think about your foot interaction as you're at whatever speed's kind of comfortable for you. Releasing that foot from the ground. Listen to where that foot pressure is moving over. Slow down slowly. Good. No, we want to reduce that friction, either of push-off or acceleration. So we'll do the same thing here. Up and down, release that foot. Get that lean a little bit, and then start to just keep building. So if you're doing a run walk, building it over at least that many steps, that's the minimum to speed up and slow down. Try the alternative, and you'll kind of see why. On the friction on your foot, you won't last nearly as long. And just start to take a notch of speed off in each step. Distribute that like a boulder coming to a slow stop. Let's do one more. And if you feel comfortable, you can increase your speeds. Everybody's at their own speed. We don't have to run together. I'm gonna run a little faster. But think about that foot release. So we'll rotate in a couple minutes. Just keep playing with that, that lever and the release, and figure out what your body's doing. Good.
As you're stepping off, you're doing a little slip.
So let's go back a little further and get some speed, a little speed going, so you get a sense of what it is to walk on regular ground, and try to make this transition as seamlessly as possible. Good. Good.
Can I switch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're all gonna rotate in just a second. So, yeah. So try to pick your pace up to a usual walking pace.
But I'll fall on my face.
Right.
Oh my.
So the patterns that we do when we do this are very similar to the patterns that we're trying to exhibit, right? What does our body do? We soften, and we start to release, and we kind of slow down a little bit. So our body just access that motor pattern when you're not doing this, kind of, is the idea. Eyes forward, feel with your body, let it shift. Wait for it to get down with no weight. You have to bend your knee a little bit, and then shift. There you go, good. All right, let's go ahead and rotate. So let's go this way. So you guys are gonna do run walk, you guys are gonna do board walk, you guys are gonna do slide walk.
Which guys? Slide walk. Okay,
Good. All right, so
We all start on.
yeah, we'll just go forward and backwards like that. So eyes forward, bodies relaxed, knees are soft, point of contact, shifting to a point of support. Start with the forefoot down to heel, but then after you go through a couple, you can do heel to toe. Either way, there's no weight on it before you shift, okay? Same thing happens here. Hands should just be relaxed by the side. We feel the ground, we find, am I on it? Sit down, and then shift, okay?
We'll walk as naturally as possible.
So walk, usually heel to toe, same way that we want to. First time we get very cautious, right? What does our body do? It's okay. We're finding a new environment and we're adjusting to it. But the motor pattern that you guys already use on ice is very similar to what we're kind of talking about with soft knees and leafing our feet. So once you get a little more comfortable here and you're tuning into that, if there's a slide behind you or a heel sliding in front of you, set your foot down, pick it up, and get your pace up. Get maybe 5 or 6 steps, start back here, so you kind of have a little run up and you can kind of feel what that feels like. 5 or 6 steps, get on here, come on off, and see how seamless you can make it up to a kind of a usual speed. Soft knees and leafing your feet is your strategy that you'll utilize. And try to keep the same motor pattern on both sides. And as you do, then we start to get those millimeters of, do you feel that little bit of change? Is there a little squiggle? Is there a little bit of rotation in your step? Is there a little bit of slide push off? Yeah, if I walk like this, yeah, but what if I'm walking how we're walking when we're walking around? That's kind of the task. Can I just continue that same pattern? And is there just a smidge of that heel slide? Well, now try to see if I allow my body to progress over the top of it without rushing it. Can I get rid of that at regular speed? Good. That feels good. You better leaf your feet over these things because they're pebbly. Good. So thanks for coming. This is all basically awareness stuff, which is basically what this is all about. So that's how it's, to learn a new motor pattern, it requires repetitions of aware practice. Anything you've ever kind of learned how to do, that's what it takes. That's what this kind of takes. And you'll get into it as much as you put awareness and attention to it. Okay? And that's how much you'll get out of it. And it also will make, hopefully, help you to enjoy the practice of running. So it gives you something of interest for years to come rather than just cardio. If you relegate running to cardio, I think that's shameful for this beautiful thing that humans can do, but you can just hop on elliptical, and this is maybe not for you. But it can be. There's a whole world of universe of interest and subtlety in there, and the more deep you go into it, the more you get out of it. So with your running and walking, we don't have to do all this stuff barefooted. Most people are going to be running in their shoes, but if you get a little section of pavement that looks happy to you and clear, take them off for a little bit. Whether you're at the point where you're just running, or you're doing running walking. A good place to start for the amount of running that you do barefooted is the amount of walking that you've done in one period of time. Like barefooted, cut that in half. And if you didn't have any blisters, symptoms, problems, or anything like that, cut that in half and give it a go. If it's a hot day like today and the pavement's warm, you got to cut that in half again. So it might be a block, it might be 2 blocks. It's motor patterning versus volume. You're going to get your other exercise, or you're running maybe with your shoes on initially, unless depending on where you're at in the process. Okay. So every time you get a chance to lay down these new motor patterns and give your feet a chance to start to adapt, they're adapting right now. See how they feel. See, was this too much dosage? If so, bring it down next time a little bit. If not, move forward. All right. Thanks. That's it. Run, walk, and yeah, and then you can report your blocks. And if you have any questions afterwards, I'm happy to take them. But thanks. Okay.